Hey there friends, Dave Paulides, Canada Missing Project. We're at the Montana Vortex with my friend and your friend, Joe Hauser, the owner. Thanks, Joe.
You're welcome. Thanks, Dave, for coming.
So, I've had a lot of questions the last year, especially while you've been closed, about how you're doing since you had the heart attack and the big operation. How you feeling?
I'm doing really good. I'm feeling really good. Seem to be in good health right now, and I think I got all of that behind me, so I'm doing very good.
How was the desert?
The desert was awesome. We had a great time down there, which we do every year.
So every winter you kind of leave Montana, you go down to Arizona, put the trailer out there, enjoy the sun. And I know that for the people that visit the Vortex, you need to know this, that they have a huge gift shop in there and you have the coolest crystals. Tell us about where they come from, because that's an interesting story.
Well, we buy almost all of our crystals in Quartzsite, Arizona at the Rock Gem and Mineral shows, and we get them from a guy by the name of Ron Coleman. It's Ron Coleman Mining out of Hot Springs, Arkansas. And they're all domestically mined crystals, and he has some of the finest crystals in the world. His crystals are known for their clarity, and they are just awesome crystals. And we bring back tons of them every year. We have more crystals in our gift shop than any other business in Montana.
Whew. Now, I've seen them. I have some of them in my house, and we've actually talked about going back to his place in Arkansas and taking a tour of the mine.
Yeah, he does tours of the mine, and you can, I don't know, you pay $25 and they give you a bucket and they'll take you down into the main mine, which is down like almost 300 foot in the ground mining crystals. And then they bring you up to their dump pile where they take stuff up and dump it, and you can fill your bucket up and get as many crystals as you can get in there. And people have a great time. One of our friends went there last year with her grandson, Catherine, and she had a really good time.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, one of the things at the Vortex, Joe is in American Sasquatch, the movie, which you can see on Amazon, American Sasquatch, Man, Myth, or Monster. And Joe has been in the Bigfoot world much longer than I. And you started off in BFRO?
Well, I started off just in the Sierras doing my own research and eventually got into the BFRO, yes.
Now, we were talking because my folks had a house on Tahoe in Tahoma that backs up into Desolation Valley. And you were saying that you spent a lot of time back in there.
Yes, when I was younger, we hiked extensively in Desolation Valley. Family hikes and 3, 4, or 5 day backpacking trips in there. And we had Bigfoot experiences in there.
So at the time when you were doing that, did you realize it was Bigfoot?
Well, not in the very beginning, no. But after we went in there a couple times, then we started realizing that this is Bigfoot. And the sounds we're hearing and stuff like that are what Bigfoot makes. Yeah.
And when was your first sighting?
Well, actually, my first sighting, I never had a sighting in California. Almost 25, 26 years of investigating Bigfoot. I had seen tracks, I heard them, a lot of different evidence of them being around, but I had never had a sighting until I got to Montana. And that was in April 5th, 2005. And my son and I and my daughter-in-law then, we saw 2 of them walking down a snowfield at Avalanche Lake up in Glacier National Park.
What a beautiful place to see one.
Yeah, it was. And my son actually was the first one to see it. We were the first ones into Avalanche Lake that spring, and there was still snow on the trail at the top. We had to break through snowdrifts to get up there. We got up there and we're taking pictures and stuff, and then my son goes, "Dad, look, there's 2 Bigfoot across the way on that snowfield." We looked over there, and sure enough there was. One was The biggest one was probably 9 foot, I'd say, tall, and the other one was probably in the 6 foot range. And the big one was going through these snow drifts and just breaking snow, and then they'd get up on a frozen part, and the smaller one was following him. We had a close to a 4 or 5 minute sighting.
Wow. What month was that?
It was in April.
So yeah, there was still a lot of snow up there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was in April like this though, where we didn't get a lot of, we didn't have a lot of snow in the mountains, and we had just gone up there and found out the trail was open and hiked up there.
Was the lake still frozen?
There was still ice on the lake, yes.
Now, have there been other sightings up there?
Yeah, there's been other sightings both at Avalanche Lake and the Avalanche Lake campground, which you start at when you go up there. And a couple of years ago, I got an opportunity to talk to one of the rangers that's retired, and her husband were the seasonal rangers at the Avalanche Lake campground. And even though they had never seen one, they had found tracks and also had heard them at night whooping and screaming and making all kinds of different noises, she said.
Wow. To get them to even talk about it, even a seasonal ranger, that's pretty good.
It is, yes.
They don't talk too much.
No, and she also, her and her husband had experiences at the Fish Creek campground when they were seasonal rangers there too. So, all in that same area. And then even on the BFRO, there's a couple other documented sightings, multiple witness sightings on the hillside across the lake or McDonald Creek there.
Okay, so you were young, you had these experiences in Desolation Valley. You eventually kind of find your way to BFRO.
Right.
And then what was your job there?
Well, I was a curator with the BFRO, and as the reports would come in, sometimes I would take the reports and investigate them, or the investigators would investigate them, and then I'd do follow-up stuff with it.
It's a pretty good job.
Wasn't bad. Well, I wasn't getting paid. It was volunteer, but yeah. At that time, I had met Al Berry and Ron Moorhead before, and they're the ones that kind of got me into the BFRO. And both of them lived in California. Al Berry lived just down in Sacramento, and I lived in the foothills of the Sierras, and so we spent a lot of time going back and forth and investigating different reports in the Sierras where we lived.
So was Ron in the BFRO then?
Yeah, Ron and Al were both in the BFRO. They were both curators.
Okay, so you guys are both in, and then at that point, was Ron having the encounters up at his camp in the Sierras?
Yeah, Ron had already been having encounters since the 70s up there, and I had met both Al and Ron, or Al first, based on a report I put into the BFRO about loud whoops my son and I heard in North Desolation Wilderness. And one morning, about 6 o'clock in the morning, right at daylight, we just heard these loud, well, they weren't even whoops, they were roars. It was like, roar! And we heard 5 of them coming from 5 different areas. And it was like they were communicating back and forth to each other, and like saying, hey, I'm over here. And I filed a report on that, and then I eventually got a call from Al Berry, and he started asking me questions and a little bit about my background and stuff. And he said, well, the reason why I took this report is because when I was a Boy Scout a long time ago, we had hiked into Rockbound Reservoir and probably camped right where you were at, and that was the first time I ever heard Bigfoot. I heard whoops and screams up in that area. So your report really meant a lot to me.
So the people who don't know, Al is one of the guys that went back to Ron's Sierra camp,
right,
and then wrote a book and supported almost everything that Ron had experienced up there.
Right. Yeah, he was at that time. He was a investigative reporter for a newspaper in Northern California, and they had contacted him to basically to kind of see what was going on up there and let somebody else take a look at what they were doing and stuff.
So why did you and Ron leave BFRO?
Well, I didn't leave BFRO. I just found out one day I no longer could get on the database, and it appeared that Matt Moneymaker had kicked me out. And there was other people at that time that were kind of eliminated from the BFRO at the same time.
Now, was that about the same time Tom Powell was eliminated?
Yeah, right about the same time.
What was the reason that was ever given to you guys?
Well, as far as we understood, is that we were promoting the paranormal side of Bigfoot with the different reports that were coming in, that people were seeing orbs or UFOs, or they would disappear in front of them when they had a sighting, and all kinds of different things like that, which those reports basically never made the database.
So if you were a close follower of BFRO back then, you would never know about all this because it was edited out.
Well, yeah, it was either edited out or those particular reports just never got put on the public database.
So, people don't know this. You used to be a wildlife biologist for the state of
Right.
California.
Uh-huh.
So, Joe, when somebody is going to research something, do you research it by looking at, let's say, a global view of the issue? Or do you use tunnel vision and you just, okay, I want to believe it's this and I'm going to exclude everything else?
Well, no, I think you have to look at it from a global view. When you just use that tunnel vision and I'm going to look at this, that's like creating a hypothesis that you already know the answer to, and you're going to direct all your research into that particular way. But when you look at it from a global perspective and everything that's going on, it creates multiple possibilities, because other people are experiencing other things that they may not talk about in their groups or on Facebook or whatever. Although it's now, with your movie coming out, people are talking more about those type of things that were on the fringe before.
Yeah, it seems like in American Sasquatch, I have all the people that were kicked out of BFRO.
You do. Yeah, all the people that were kicked out for talking about orbs and UFOs and Bigfoot and cloaking and all the different things that we know that they do.
So just the other day, and seriously, this was less than a week ago, a friend of mine was trying to rent the property that the Olympic Project owns in Washington. So the Olympic Project was given that property by Wally Hersham,
Yes.
who was a supplier of millions of dollars of cash to BFRO. And Wally gave the edict to BFRO that I want you to go out and find DNA. They never supposedly found any DNA. Wally came over, joined me and Dr. Ketchum, and helped pay for our study. Once the results came out on that DNA, Wally said, I've had enough of Bigfoot altogether. You guys proved exactly what I needed to know, Dave, and he backed away and left. Never to be seen again, and he unfortunately died in the last couple of years. But, so Wally gave the Olympic Project this property. This friend of mine calls the Olympic Project and goes, yeah, we want to do something with someone, and we know this area of Washington has a lot of UFOs, and we want to film there. You know what Olympic Project said? We don't want anything to do, and we don't want this property associated with anything related to UFOs. No, you can't do it.
I'm not surprised. The Olympic Project has always been more that it's just a big ape and out there in the wilderness, and I never got a chance to meet Wally, but I know he provided them lots of funding to put game cameras out all over in remote places, and they never got anything over all the years that they were doing that. I mean, I think they had like 80 plus game cameras out in the Olympic Peninsula, and I could be wrong, but it was a lot of game cameras. And they caught all kinds of other things, but they never caught a Bigfoot on one.
Wow. Well, another another guy that I know that used to be a member of the Olympic Project left on his own because they wouldn't follow his research, and he had a series of unusual encounters in Washington. And so my question is, everybody that was in my movie had migrated from not just BFRO, but migrated from the belief that it was ape gorilla to it was something else that was transitory, that had to do with some spatial issue and maybe UFOs, but they migrated from this hard ape gorilla to this. So my question to you is, have you ever known anybody to migrate from here to the ape?
No, I never have. I can't see anybody going backwards once they have experienced the paranormal side of these beings. And over the years, you and I have spoken together at conferences in the Washington area where there's lots of Olympic Project people there. And over the years, they pretty much didn't want anything to do with the paranormal side of Bigfoot. And even though their people were having those experiences, it was frowned on for them to talk about that or to bring it up or anything like that. So there was many times I was contacted, and even Ron Moorhead and Tom Powell and other people, they tend to take us over to the side and say, I just listened to your presentation and we're having experiences like that, but we can't talk about it. They kind of won't let us to talk about it and stuff. Or I had this experience over here. And they wanted to talk about it, and they wanted to talk about somebody that had knowledge of it, but that wasn't allowed, as far as I know, in the Olympic Project. They never bring that up.
Why do you think they don't bring it up?
Well, I think the people that were in charge of the Olympic Project just didn't believe in it. Even though a couple of them had some paranormal experiences too.
So way back when you first got involved in Bigfoot, if somebody would have approached you with what we believe today, would you have pushed them away or would you have listened?
No, I would have listened because I was already on that wavelength.
Oh.
I had been investigating paranormal things for years, and the possibility of interdimensional portals and different UFOs and things like that. Long before I had my first Bigfoot experience. And then over a period of time, they kind of fit into the category of the paranormal side on the things I was experiencing and seeing versus the big ape side. So I was always kind of leaning into that. And then when I met Ron Moorhead and Al Berry, both of them were kind of on the same wavelength because we could talk freely and we're having all these different experiences, and we were kind of like, how come all these guys that are claiming they're just big dumb apes aren't getting the same sort of feedback that we are in our research?
So if somebody, and this has happened to us before, somebody sees us at our table at a conference, they come up and they ask us some questions, and it's somebody who's hard ape, hard gorilla, doesn't believe anything what we're saying. I've kind of learned over the years to not try to convince them of anything, but kind of lay down the groundwork for what we know based on even other people's experience. When in the movie I talk about and I present a man from Tennessee, Scott Carpenter introduced me to him, and he believed, as BFRO did, and then he was in the woods and he started filming orbs right in locations where he had heard whoops and yells and screams. And he said, Dave, it just happens way too often. You just can't ignore it.
Right.
And I said, so you came about this on your own? He goes, yeah. He said it was personal experience. And maybe it's the issue is that some of these people aren't going out into the locations and experiencing it firsthand. How could you just disavow it after you see it?
Well, that's true. But we know people that have done that on TV programs that we've all watched. And I've taken several of the Bigfoot TV programs. I had talked to you about this before, and I won't name any names, but I had gone through several of the programs and broke them down frame by frame. And when you break it down that way, you can see strange lights, you can see orbs, all kinds of other things are going on in many of those videos that anybody who looked at it would see briefly, and then like, oh, there's something there. Let's run that back and just look at each frame. And that stuff was happening. And even when I approached some of the people that were involved with it, with videos of what was really there, they were like, oh, well, that's nice, and kind of in denial.
So I've done a couple of cruises now, Bigfoot cruises with Mariah Mayor. We've done conferences together. I know her super well. She's a super nice person. I have nothing negative to say about Mariah. But in front of her, I did a presentation that talked about her and her partner in her series standing there, and Mariah said, something just ran past me. I didn't see it, but I could feel the whoosh. It just ran by me. Then they're standing there for like another 3 or 4 minutes, and then it runs back the other way. And she goes, it just ran back the other way. So I know that they're having personal encounters. And I'm wondering if the producers and the directors of these TV series lay down a groundwork that they can't acknowledge that this is a possibility.
Not being involved in those kind of programs, I would say they probably set some groundwork or parameters of where they want to go or which direction they want the program to go, and I think that could be it. Tammy and I have had an experience here we have felt things like running by us before too at the Vortex here. But one night we were in our teepee out here, and it was cold. There was like 3 foot of snow on the ground. I took the snow blower and made a trail so we can get in there. And we went in, we just were bored being in the house. We went in there, started a nice fire, and we're listening to a little bit of music. And all of a sudden, like from this direction over here, the teepee was in the back of the house. We heard this thing coming, and it was almost like a roar. And then it just like went right through the teepee, right between us. We felt the energy and right out the other side, like something ran through there. And we're like, whoa, it all happened like in maybe 15 seconds, but did you hear that? Yeah, and then it came right through the teepee. You could feel the energy running through the teepee.
Wow.
And we went outside, looked for tracks, couldn't find anything, but there was something that ran right through that teepee in between us.
So I know where you guys put that teepee, and you guys live on the property here in your house.
Right.
Now you've had things knock on the walls in the middle of the night.
Yes.
And that's not uncommon, right?
No, it's not. They, ever since, I've been here 22 years, and they've been knocking on the walls of the house for 22 years.
And when there's snow on the ground, you go out and look for tracks, there's no tracks.
I've only found some tracks in the snow, but not where they're knocking. But then our lawn is manicured and mowed down, so I let the grass grow up one time. And about a week later, we got some strong knocks, and I went out and I found 19-inch footprints in the grass. It was just impressions where it pushed the grass down. And they were about 65, 68 inches between left and right foot, and almost in a perfect straight line. And there was about 10 steps, and then the footprints just disappeared.
So that brings up another good point that I've talked about at conferences. So at Skinwalker Ranch, they talk about hitchhikers. Mm-hmm. And these entities seem to follow the researchers from Skinwalker Ranch home, and they don't directly harass the researchers. It's almost like it's family members or the periphery. And I've explained to people that I know other Bigfoot researchers that have had entities follow them home and not necessarily be harassed, but you'll walk out and there's a big, for me, when I lived in Colorado, I went out to my car and across the dirt path there was a giant one print between my front door and the car. So have you heard about this?
Yes.
You think it's real?
Oh, no doubt about it. When we leave here and go to Arizona, and we're out in the desert, and there has been Bigfoot sightings in the area that we're at along the Colorado River in southern Arizona. I have found single tracks out in the desert where nobody has walked, and we've also had knocks on our fifth wheel, like 11, 12 foot up on the side of the fifth wheel. And it's like they follow us there, and and it doesn't matter. Even at my daughter's house in Forestell, California, we've gone there, and when we've showed up, then they've had Bigfoot experiences. But that's not unusual. I've noticed too here at the Vortex, and what I learned a long time ago, if Bigfoot knows you in one area, and they've accepted you and they like you, it doesn't matter where you go. They're like communicating with the Bigfoot that are in 1,300 miles away, and they know you, and if these guys said you're okay, then you're all right. And many times I've had Bigfoot researchers come to the Vortex that are having experiences, whether it's Indiana or Tennessee or Utah, wherever, and they come here and right away we start having Bigfoot experiences. It's like they're welcoming them or letting them know that, hey, we know you too. And we've even got a couple pictures based on that. Those people showing up, and boom, we have a Bigfoot experience.
So you watched the Skinwalker Ranch series.
Yes.
And you've heard about these hitchhiker effect. So if it's happening there with their entities, and they're not even sure what they are, something related to UFOs, so is there some linkage there between what's happening to those researchers there with what they're doing and the Bigfoot researchers here with what we're doing?
Well, I think there is a link. We haven't been able to figure what that is yet, but we're dealing with, we're thinking in terms of 3 dimensions here, and everything that happens here. But
4 or 5.
Even 4, yeah. There could be multiple dimensions, and we don't know what comes through from those other dimensions. And it's like you've seen in your documentary, there's a video of the Bigfoot coming in a physical presence. Actually came in as an orb first, but you guys didn't put that in. And then it walked across the House of Mystery and then just morphed up into this light or spiritual being. And then another one came in and did the same thing. And that night, I think we got 18 videos of him in the House of Mystery doing that. So we think they came through a portal because we could see this big blue thing inside there, like a hole that they were coming through. And they may be able to open portals wherever they want to and travel interdimensionally. And especially, I believe they travel in the form of an orb. That's been pretty much my experience here and at other places. And other people have had those experiences too, where they've had a Bigfoot sighting and then the Bigfoot just morphed into an orb and boom, shot off.
So in my movie, I presented at Skinwalker where researchers on the property looking down at a meadow, they see an orb. The orb transitions and it starts to grow, and the researchers can see like down a tube and they see something crawling through. When I first saw that, it reminded me that the videos I've seen with you here of looks like a tube, and sometimes it looks like there's an orb in the tube. So is that just a different version of what they're seeing at the ranch?
Well, it's probably the same thing. Some quantum physicists believe that portals, NASA has put out a lot on portals with Dr. Jack Scudder from the University of Iowa. And they indicated originally that they thought that they were talking about portals between the Earth and the Sun. And
sirens, helicopters. Hold on.
Yeah, I think it's a life flight helicopter. Anyway, some scientists believe that portals are tubes that connect one dimension to another, and that electrons don't have enough energy, single electrons, to pass through those tubes, so they ball up together in orbs to increase their energy, which indicates some sort of intelligence, and then they enter these tubes and gradually work their way from one dimension to another. And you've seen the videos we have here. We have tubes all different sizes, and some of those tubes go way up in the air, like come out of the ground, and there's orbs in there that gradually move along, and over a period of time, we think they probably go into another dimension. And even right here where we're sitting, a couple years ago, we had this big long tube that was laying on the ground over here and going into the center of the big vortex, and it was just undulating back and forth, and all of a sudden, just like that, boom, an orb popped right out of it and just stayed right over there on the labyrinth. It was about this big around, it was really bright, and then after about 30-40 seconds, it just boom, shot right off. So it was like we witnessed the birth of an orb right here. And we have that on video too. Nobody has seen that yet.
Well, there's so much, there's so many credible people that are researchers. Stan Gordon in Pennsylvania, one of the most credible guys ever. And in the movie we talk about it, he interviewed somebody who saw Bigfoot walking through the woods carrying a glowing orb. And then that orb was related to a UFO. So if you're in the Bigfoot world and you're a hard and fast ape gorilla believer, the problem I have with that is that why haven't we seen one? Because they're not that smart. And why haven't we found a body if it's an ape or a gorilla? And those 2 points to me really stick out, just because anybody could walk up, and they give tours in different parts of the world that you can go visit these things in the wild. And the DNA study we did doesn't support ape or gorilla, and there's never been an ape or gorilla hair or fiber or bone found in the wilds of North America. And I could go on, but it frustrates me that some of the biggest names in the Bigfoot world just want to...
Well, I think some people are meant to see those kind of things, and other people are not. And I don't know if it's just how you think or whatever else, what causes it, but tons of people have been doing Bigfoot research for years and writing about it on the internet, and they may have found a footprint one time or something like that, but overall they haven't had any real experiences, and they haven't seen a Bigfoot. They may have heard one time, which got them interested, and then they go a long time and nothing happens. And some people, I think, and there's tons of people, just have had no experience at all. They're like armchair researchers, and in mom's basement or something like that. And they're not getting in the field, but I've always said, there's really no experts in the Bigfoot field. Some people just have more experiences than other people. But really all it takes to be an expert in the Bigfoot field, or even the UFO field, is just start 5 minutes before somebody else and start putting stuff out there, and all of a sudden everybody's reading your stuff and it's like, oh, I'm an expert now. But there are no experts. I mean, until we get one and we're sitting down with them and talking to them and sharing, and there's some people that are doing that. Then we can all become experts at a certain point in time. But right now there's so many people that just in the ape world that are not having any experiences at all.
What year did you buy the Vortex, Joe?
I bought it in 2004, August of 2004.
When you bought it, did the old owners ever say anything to you about Bigfoot experiences here?
Actually, they didn't, and the lady and the man that owned it, I was trying to get them to tell me about paranormal things that were happening here, Because I was here like a week before I ended up making a deal to buy it, and I was having paranormal experiences all the time. And at night, they let me come down here at night. I was filming orbs and hearing Bigfoot down in the woods, rock clocking and whistling and stuff like that.
I would have closed that day on the deal.
I did. And but I was trying to get them to tell me about the paranormal stuff, and they wouldn't say anything. And then after I bought the place and we continued having experiences, their daughter showed up one day and said, "Hey, I wanted to talk to you about here." She goes, "I lived here for like a year before my parents retired and moved over here, and we were having like tons of things happening, but my mom didn't want to tell you about any of them because she was afraid that she would scare you off and you wouldn't buy the place." And of course that's what I was looking for. And so she told me about a lot of the experience. They were seeing lights, they were seeing orbs, they were hearing different strange sounds out here that they couldn't identify, which later on, of course, we know them to be Bigfoot type sounds.
Wow.
So yeah, lots going on here all the time. I mean, Tammy and I wake up every day and we expect to have a paranormal experience. Doesn't mean we're going to have one, but over 22 years of being here now, there's many days where myself and other guides that are here, or even tourists, have looked over here and all of a sudden we see this big swirl, like in the Predator movie, all the pixelization, and it looks like the whole world is just kind of falling apart, and then boom, it's gone just like that. So chances of having those kind of paranormal experiences are here. Can't guarantee that to anybody, but it's really high. If you're going to have one during daylight hours, this is a place that you might have it.
So a couple of years back, we put on MontanaCon here in Kalispell, and then we had an event here at the Vortex, and we probably had 150 people here.
Right.
And while those 150 people were on the property, there's all kinds of strange things that happened.
There was.
What do you think triggered that?
Well, I think when you get 150 believers together, and maybe we had a few skeptics in the crowd, but I think most people were believers in Bigfoot, UFOs, and everything that we presented at this conference. It raises the energy level, and it raises all of our vibrations, and just things start happening. I mean, it creates the atmosphere that things can happen. And you film things in the sky, even after the conference, things that didn't make your documentary. I had lots of pictures where people had taken pictures, and there was all kinds of different things going on here that they couldn't believe. I mean, so we were getting pictures for weeks as people got home and looked at their stuff, where there was orbs or whatever it happened to be.
Now, had you ever had an event that large on this property?
No, we hadn't, but we also noticed in the summertime, during June, July, and August, especially July and August, we have hundreds of people here on any given day. And the more people we have, the energy also increases. And we'd already experienced that. More people, more things start happening. It changes the vibration.
So it's almost like we're batteries, and the more batteries, the more power, and the more things happen.
Well, yeah, it's collective consciousness. You get all these people believing in something, and you put them all in one area, then things are gonna happen. And that was going all the way back to like right now, the Princeton I think they've been doing research on human consciousness for years. And years ago, everybody that's older can remember the O.J. Simpson thing when he was driving around Los Angeles, and the whole world was tuned into him, and they found out that random numbers generators were not printing random numbers. They were only printing zeros and ones. And then after that whole episode went by, they went back to printing random numbers. Well, then they started keeping track of it, and they found out that at the opening ceremony of the Olympics, the whole world is watching the Olympics, got a lot of positive energy going on, and computers that print random numbers won't print random numbers, zeros and ones. 9/11, 3 days or 4 days before 9/11, they stopped printing random numbers. It was like it was already in the ether, in the collective consciousness. We had, a few years ago, we had 80 people here that were part of the Consciousness Project, and I did a special tour with them in October of the Vortex, and they were on the grounds probably a good 5-6 hours. And part of it, they were going to either meditate or pray while they were here and see if they could affect the random numbers generator from the Vortex, and they were able to do that.
So I remember, it's probably been 3 or 4 years now, that I was here, you were here, your wife Tammy, and you had a couple other people that we sat together here around the fire.
Right.
And I would say that was collective consciousness. We all kind of felt the same way. And you took a picture of me with an orb above my head.
Right.
And I thought, wow, how do you do that?
Well, you had a visitor there. Somebody was definitely visiting you, and
I do think that there's a lot more to our consciousness than most people really believe, and to think that our mind may have a connection to something out in the universe, and there's no hardwired connection, but to think that our thoughts can travel that far.
Well, it's kind of what we teach here at the Vortex. We really, our tours are based on quantum physics, so you're getting a mini quantum physics tour here and learning about, through our demonstrations and stuff, in the electromagnetic field, but it's called entanglement. Our electrons, because we have auras that go out 3-4 foot around us, electromagnetic fields that's generated by our heart. Actually, our electromagnetic field generated by our heart is like 500,000 times stronger than the electromagnetic field that's generated in our brain. But we're sharing each other's energy, and once we're entangled, then it doesn't matter how far we are apart. That entanglement, scientists found years ago that once electrons become entangled with each other, doesn't matter how far you separate them, they'll always be entangled. And we've all experienced this. How many times you ever thought about somebody, a minute later you get a phone call? We do that. You talk about somebody you hadn't seen, you go to the store, you run into them 10 minutes later, they say, hey, I've been thinking about giving you a call. And with you and I, it happens all the time. You call me, and I was just thinking I'm going to pick up the phone and call Dave and talk to him about something. And it happens with all my friends I've known for years, Ron Moorhead. It used to happen with Al Berry and other people. And so we just kind of shine it on, but really it's all quantum physics. It's all entanglement. And once you become entangled with the Bigfoot people, then that's what I say. If they know you in one place, they know you wherever you go. And if they like you there, then you're going to have experiences. And I'm sure they can read our minds. They know what we're thinking. Many days I've come out here and found glyphs. And we rake the grounds, as you know, every morning. We come in, we get it all clean and ready to go. And 5 minutes later, there'll be a glyph over here on the ground, or there'll be a rock and a feather. Well, many times I come out here and maybe I'll walk down the main trail, and then today it's like, well, I'm going to go over here, and I go over there, and there's the rock and the feather over there. So they know, it's almost like they have precognition. They know what we're going to do before we even go to do it.
So, I'm not sure everyone knows this, but the day you had your heart attack, you worked here that day.
Yes.
It was a hot day.
It was.
I remember it. And then afterwards, you were going to some meeting at a hotel in Kalispell. And Kalispell's what, maybe 15 miles from here?
Yeah.
So if people don't know, the Vortex is on the outskirts of Columbia Falls. Columbia Falls is closest city, but they don't have paramedics. Kalispell's the closest city that has paramedics, which is where Joe had his heart attack. And I hesitate to say that if he had the heart attack here, I doubt you would have made it, buddy.
No, I wouldn't have made it. No, there's no way. And I've talked to many people I know from past experiences that are firemen, and all of them have told me straight out, you were very lucky, because I have never, in all the time I was with the fire department, we never saved anybody that had a heart attack like you had.
Yeah.
So everything had to fall into place. There was a woodland firefighter there that gave me CPR for 20-25 minutes before the fire department got there, and then they put me on a defibrillator, and so I'm a very lucky person. The doctor said, you're in the 1% club. Less than 1% of the people that have a heart attack like you had survived. And that's, talking to other people, that's what I've learned over a period of time. So I have much gratitude for being here.
Now, when I heard that story the first time, I thought, it can't be all luck.
No, it probably isn't.
You know, you think about how many days out of a month after a hard day of work like that do you leave and drive that far?
Right.
Not that many.
No, not that many. Another thing too, Tammy, one of the ladies that were there at this conference too, she got my cell phone, saw that Tammy's name was on there more than anybody else. I didn't have a password on it. And she called her and said, I don't know if you know this guy that belongs to this phone, but he just had a heart attack. And Tammy was at Costco. She drove down there. And when she got there, the fire department was just ready to put the defibrillator on me. And she kept telling me, you can't go. I love you. We're not done yet. We still have things to do. You have to come back. And I remember going to this white light. Can't tell you anything else that happened there, but I did go to this white light, and I felt very comfortable being in that light. And then at a certain point in time, I think I was sent back. Either Tammy called me back, or her energy, or somebody sent me back. I've just been telling people, well, they told me my extended warranty hadn't expired. It's time to go back.
You better buy another extended warranty.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know, but I'm a very lucky person to be here. And you were certainly instrumental in this, after everything happened, and visiting me in the hospital and showing up and everything.
Oh my gosh.
And Tammy and I both appreciate that too.
No, Joe,
and Tammy was just awesome. I mean, you know how many months she took care of me and nursed me back to health and everything like that. So, yeah, good friends and good wife, and it really worked out.
So when you were in the hospital and Tammy was here alone, did anything happen unusual to her while she was here?
Yeah, she continued to have experiences here. Yeah, the Bigfoot were still here. They're always here. They choose to interact with us when they want to. And we just think they're always here. We just don't see them. But there'll be many days, Tammy and I be out here in the summertime, and we'll be watering or cleaning up the grounds after we work and stuff like that, getting ready for the next day. And then we're like, well, we haven't had any Bigfoot experiences for like the last 3 weeks. And we'll just like, hey guys, are you still here? Let us know, give us a sign. And then invariably that night, we'll have one that comes up and knocks on the house or makes some sort of noise, or we'll hear rock talking or whatever. So it's like, they're always here. And they're protecting us too. People talk about mind speak. I've only had it one time. I had it a couple times. But before I met Tammy, I was here living by myself. I'd gone through a divorce, and every night I would come out here and I'd walk the trails, and I'd take pictures trying to capture orbs or just see whatever thing was there. And I was going down the main trail over there, and when I got to the steps, before I got to the steps, I took a picture, and there was a great big orb right at the beginning of the steps. So I walked on down there, and when I got right to the top of the steps, normally I would go down the steps, and I got hit in the chest with something. It was like a big hand just slapped me in the chest, but it was more energy. And in my mind, I heard the words, "Don't come down here tonight." And it was plain as day. And I was like, whoa. And so I just backed up and I stood there for a minute or two. I took a couple more pictures. I didn't get anything in the pictures. And I thought, well, I'm not afraid. I mean, I'm down here at 11, 12, 1 o'clock at night every night doing this kind of research. I'm going to go down there. And so I went to go to the stairs, and I got smacked in the chest again. and it said, "Don't come down here tonight." Perfectly. It was like somebody was speaking in my brain. I thought, okay, so I walked back up to the gift shop. I stayed up there for 4 or 5 minutes, took some more pictures and stuff, and then I thought, well, this is mind over matter, or mind over matter. And I walked down there, and I was going pretty fast, and I got to the top of the steps, and man, I got whacked really hard with this energy field or something, and it knocked me back, and then the voice changed. It said, "Don't come down here tonight." It was like a really deep voice. And I said, okay, fine. So I went in the house and came back the next day, went all the way around the property, nothing happened. But something was, and I think was the Bigfoot people, something was protecting me that night from, I think, something at the bottom of the trail. I don't know if a grizzly was down there or a portal had opened and they didn't want me to go through it, or there was some activity at the bottom down there where they didn't want me down there. And I think it was protection. I think they actually stopped me from going down there for a reason.
Maybe there's a couple Bigfoot down there procreating.
It could have been, yeah.
They didn't want you to see that.
They didn't want me to see it. But we suspected it at a certain point down there. See, we bought the property, we could say 22 years ago, to research electromagnetic energy fields and put some science behind what happens here, just like they're doing on Skinwalker Ranch. And over the years, we've done lots of different experiments. But we also bought the property to research the possibility of interdimensional portals. And anywhere you go in the world, these vortexes are known as portals. The Blackfeet even called this a place of no return. It's part of their oral history. At some point in time, somebody disappeared here and never came back. And after the first year we were here, we were pretty much convinced, based on what we had seen, experienced, filmed, that there was anywhere from 1 to 3 portals on the property. So then the question is, when do these portals open? How do they open? Can we open them? And that's what we've been doing for a number of years, trying to figure out how that all comes together. And the videos we have inside the house, which the one is in your documentary, right prior to that, we did some experiments with the Tesla machine from a young scientist down in Puerto Rico that came here. And I had wanted to raise the energy of the vortex to try to create a tipping point or an event horizon to open a portal. And I had experienced it using fire here. I burned a big fire one time and all kinds of crazy things started happening, kind of like Skinwalker Ranch shooting off the rockets and creating a tipping point. Well, he set up a Tesla machine here, and we raised the energy of the vortex from about 800 milligauss of electromagnetic energy, which it probably is today, feels kind of normal, up to 49,650 some milligauss of electromagnetic energy. The whole place was vibrating, and if I took your picture, you'd be in 8 different places, like you were totally, everything was out of phase. And we ran it for a while, and then we shut it down, and we had never put cameras out here, because I learned years ago, if you want Bigfoot around, don't put game cameras around, because they're not going to come around. They know the cameras are there. And we decided to put a camera in the House of Mystery, because we suspected there might be a portal in there. And Tammy said, no, you can't put them in there. You can't put a camera in there. You're going to tick off the Bigfoot, and they're not going to like it. And I said, well, go down and talk to them. And so I brought the camera down here, and I had a 25-foot extension cord. And I plugged the camera in and the extension cord in, but it wasn't turned on. And then I just said, hey, guys, you know the experiments we've been doing here the last couple days. You probably felt the energy. We need to put a camera here and see what happens to continue our research. And I know you don't like to get your picture or video taken. We're not trying to trick you. I'm telling you the camera is going to be in here. If you don't want to be videoed, don't come in. And I'm going to leave the camera on that speaker box in there. And you guys come and check it out tonight, and if you agree, then give me a sign. Well, a sign is usually leaving a rock or a feather or something like that. And if you don't agree, well, we'll go from there. Well, I had tied the camera cord and the orange extension cord together, and the orange extension cord was 25 foot. I went back the next morning, and the camera was gone. And the only reason I knew where it went is because they had tossed it out the back window, and it hit the end of the 25-foot extension cord, and it was down on the trail. So I went down there and I said, hey, this is not right. We've always respected you. We've never tried to trick you. I don't like it that you tossed my camera out the window. You know the research that we do here. And I was kind of ticked off. And I said, I'm going to put the camera here tonight. I'm going to turn it on. If you guys don't want to be videoed, don't come in, but don't mess with my camera. You made me mad. Well, I started walking up the trail, and Tammy was coming down. And she goes, you turn the camera on? And I said, no. I told her what happened. She goes, oh, you can't talk to him like that. You're going to really tick him off. She goes, let me go talk to him. The women's touch, right?
Yeah.
So she goes down there. She's in the House of Mystery about 5 minutes talking to him. She comes walking up the trail, and she goes, well, what do you think? And it just kind of hit me right then. It like popped into my head. It's time they show the world what they really are. And I told her that. Don't you think it's time they show the world what they really are? And she goes, yeah, I think so. I go, let's talk to him. So we both went in and talked to him. Told him we're going to put the camera in. If you don't want to be videoed, don't come in. But if you do, show the world what you really are. And a day or so later, this big blue thing opened up in there. We had an orb, a great big orb sitting right in the center of it. The orb moved out to the side, and 32 seconds later, a Bigfoot walked across the camera, which you have in your documentary, and then it just turned around, looked back at the camera, and just morphed up into this light being. So
that's what they really are.
That's what they really are. They travel in the form of an orb. They can shapeshift, and that's why a lot of times they're here and boom, they're gone just like that. Or they just step into this dimension for just enough time to make 1 or 2 footprints, and then they're back into another dimension.
Fascinating stuff.
And since then, you know, too, we've got all kinds of other stuff in there. I mean,
you've got an orb in there that follows people around.
We do. We have, we call him Greenie, and he's been there probably about 5 years now. It's non-human intelligence, and he definitely has intelligence. And we tell people about him, and they take pictures and videos, and he loves to get his picture or video taken. He'll say you're taking a picture or video of somebody, and he'll zip right over and get right on the person that's being videoed. And if he sees you move the camera this way, he'll go over there, and he'll show up. Last year he showed up every day in 4, 5, 6, 10 pictures or videos. And he moves around. He'll fly in out the door, in the window, come back in, and just people just get him flying around in there. But he definitely has some sort of intelligence, because he knows what he's doing, and he knows you're taking a picture, and he wants to get his picture taken. And that's just one thing. There's tons of other non-human intelligence things here that we've been able to document over the years. And you've seen a lot of the films, but you haven't even seen them all.
So Joe, in September we're doing something special.
We are.
So I've gone to Alaska, I think 5 times now. This cruise on Royal Caribbean is going to be fun. And you're going to give a presentation on the cruise.
Yes.
And you're going to show some stuff that nobody's seen before?
I'm going to show things that nobody's seen before.
That'll be fun.
It will be, yeah.
And go to Gather Up Events. Gather Up is one word. Gather Up Events. And see, it's going to be a combination of Bigfoot and Missing 411 cruise. And the funny thing is, 2 out of the 3 people on the Missing 411 side are Bigfoot people too. So
yeah,
you're going to have a good time talking to us. And when does the Vortex open?
Well, we officially open on May 9th, which is this Saturday. And we'll be open the 9th and the 10th, Saturday and Sunday. We'll be closed Mondays through the rest of May, except come Memorial Day weekend, we start opening 7 days a week. And we're open from 10 to 5 daily. We've just hired some new tour guides that are being trained, and they are excellent, some of the best tour guides we've ever had. And it's going to be a lot of fun. And with the we're getting a lot of feedback from the documentary. People have seen it and they want to come to the Vortex, and I think we're going to have a great summer here. And then the more people we get, the more things happen, the more crazy things that happen here.
So you here most of the time?
I'm here all the time.
You're here all the time?
Yeah, I'm here usually Tammy and I are both here 7 days a week.
And just so you know, their gift shop has a whole section of just missing 411 books I've written on Bigfoot, Sasquatch, DVDs, all kinds of things. So come check them out, and they'll be a lot of fun. And Joe and I will be together on the Bigfoot cruise and missing 411 cruise. And I guarantee it is going to be a lot of fun. And the best thing is you can sign up for excursions, or you can sign up for dinners where Joe or I will be at the dinner and ask a million questions. And that's really what it's all about, getting to know people, having fun. And then the excursions, last time I was in Alaska, we did a fishing excursion on a river for salmon and steelhead that was just so fun, if you like fishing. But yeah, looking forward to it.
We are too. Tammy's really looking forward to it. I've been on a cruise before, but she's never been on one. And we've wanted to go to Alaska, so this worked out perfectly.
Oh, there you go.
We get to go to Alaska, and we get to give a talk about it and meet a lot of nice people, and it's going to be a great time.
So this isn't to put you on the spot, trust me, but I've had at least 10 people in the last month ask me, hey, are you guys ever going to do MontanaCon again?
Yes, we are.
We are?
I think we are.
We are? Okay.
I think we are. There's been a lot of people ask us about it too. For the last couple of years, it just didn't work out with my heart attack, and you were gone on a cruise, doing another cruise at different times. But I'm kind of thinking we should plan for sure for next year to do another MontanaCon.
It'll be fun.
And it looks like this summer we're going to be doing, we had talked about it before, and I've talked to Tammy again about it. I think we're going to have at least one or two of those things here where you show your movie, and we have kind of like a town hall, both maybe June, July, and
that'd be fun.
People will be able to show up and get a chance to talk to us and ask questions and tell some of their stories. And then I think you said you're going to show your new documentary too. So,
yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah, I think it will be. So that's kind of in the planning stages, but I think we should probably do that.
Awesome. Well, Joe, thanks for opening yourself up to the public, and you guys come out, visit the Montana Vortex just outside of Columbia Falls, Montana. Starting Memorial Day, 7 days a week it'll be open. And trust me, I've been to a lot of places in the world. I've probably been here over 100 times, and every time I'm here, something odd happens. I'm not kidding. So, thanks a lot, Joe.
Thank you, Dave.